The younger generation in America today is the catalyst to the engine of possibilities and advancement. However, Harvard University reports that there's still more work to do in order to help them carve a pathway of success over the long haul. They found that over half of the population of young people at 58% between the ages of 18 and 25 experience little to no purpose at the tail end of 2025. The Pew Research Center also notes that approximately 18% of teens between the ages of 13 and 17 are unsure of their career path and life trajectory after high school. Which now, of course, begs the question, how can we motivate the next generation to find their footing when it comes to passion and purpose? To answer that question with greater conviction, I want to introduce you to my friend Brayden Black. He's known as the identity restorer and dream catalyst. He's a professional speaker who's spoken to hundreds of teens and young adults across the United States, helping them to rediscover their identity, eliminating their limiting beliefs, and helping them to find both purpose and clarity in everything they do. It's all in an effort to help them to see what they can't see in themselves. Meanwhile, Forbes also reports on the widespread pressure that teens feel today to uphold a certain image. A 2023 study revealed 81% of teens and young adults feel significant pressure for achievement, appearance, and future plans, which also contributes to their lower self-esteem levels. And Black is on a mission to ensure that he can help reverse this troubling trend once and for all. And he joined me this week to tell me more about how he helps young people find the best version of their greatest identities. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Brayden, if you're ready, my friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program on this Monday morning, and I'm all excited to talk to you about leadership and how we help the next generation really maximize their potential. It's great to see you, and happy Monday to you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. So, Brayden, I know that you're someone that believes that pressure isn't necessarily a bad thing. I know that you believe that pressure builds capacity, and our capacity builds our character, my friend. So I'm wondering if we can start our conversation by you really detailing for me what you mean by that, my friend, and what makes you so fabulous.
Yeah. When things are put under pressure, the true self comes out. Or they're created. I think about diamonds. Diamonds are formed under intense, immense pressure for years and years and years and years. And look at what they become. They are extremely highly valued, and they have a lot. They go on rings. They're places where everybody sees them, everybody shows them off. immense pressure. When you are put under pressure or certain situations, it helps your true self to come out. I'll give you an example. So one of my jobs is I'm a trip leader for a humanitarian company. So we take kids to foreign countries and we do humanitarian projects. And on these trips, they can be extremely stressful. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of things going on. And so there's a lot of pressure, especially to perform well and help the kids to have an amazing experience like you want them to have. And because of that, a person's true self and a lot of their colors tend to show very quickly. You get to know a lot about a person, and pressure puts your true state of being into action. And when your true state of being is into action, there's opportunity for growth, to build character, and to really hone in on becoming that diamond in the rough, that version of yourself that has this immense capacity.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I want to talk to you about giving kids identity of our next generation because I know that you characterize yourself as the identity restorer and dream catalyst, my friend. And I know that you've spoken to hundreds of young people across the country about what their true potential is and how to help them restore their identity, get rid of their limiting beliefs, and find purpose through clarity, my friend. So, what do you think it means to give young people an identity today, my friend? What do you think that means to you?
Everyone has an identity. They were born with it. Everybody was born with worth. Along the way, people were given labels. But before labels were ever attached to you, you had an identity and you still have it. Part of what my work is and what I want to do, my dream, my aspiration, my hope is to help this generation and everyone remember the royalty inside of them. Every single one of us is a queen or a king born that way with potential. I love the movie The Lion King. It's one of my favorites. And this is the whole concept where we come from of Simba's like in the second song of the whole movie, I can't wait to be king. I have this dream. I have this vision. But then he has an experience where somebody tells him to run and hide. Don't ever come back. You're not a king. This will never be you. And then there takes this pivotal moment in the story where because of a friend, he is reminded of who he actually is. And then he goes back and he takes his throne. And for me in this generation, helping people remember their identity is remembering who their true self is before any labels got put on them that either other people put on them or that they started to put on themselves. And when you can do that, when you can remember that, there's nothing in this world that will stop you.
Yeah, and Brent, I want to talk to you about creating vision of prosperity, my friend, and then I'll give you a little context before I ask you this question. So, for me personally, Brayden, my vision of prosperity happened. I started forming it when I was 9 years old, buddy, because I was born with cerebral palsy, and I was told at the age of 9 that I would never be able to walk because of the severity of my disability. But I truly believe that everyone's portrait of success is different, and the only definition of success you have to follow is your own. So I'm curious to ask you, what do you think it means to help young people today find their vision through the chaos of clarity? What do you think it means, my friend? What does that mean to you?
For people to find vision, I think there's this part of ourselves. We know this, that, and I believe this about every person. There is good within you. There are gifts, qualities, attributes, talents, things that you were innately born with, and things that you will develop. Vision for me is seeing, okay, how can I use those to now go forward and use those to not just bless me, but bless everyone else. I am a person of faith, and I believe that God has given each and every single one of us gifts and attributes for the benefit of blessing his kids. And to have vision, I think, is to dream. It's to see. It's to believe. Proverbs says that where there is no vision, the people perish. Vision is clarity and insight and direction as to who you are and where you want to go and what you can do with that potential that you have to change the lives of so many others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, going back to your model of being your own royalty, my friend, why do you think it resonates with so many young people? And secondarily, I'm also curious to ask you about the responsibility you think that the older generation, or the example generation, as I call them, has in terms of their responsibility, in terms of modeling behavior for the next generation to follow, my friend. So you can take that two-part question in any direction you wish, my friend.
Well, start off with what you said just barely with this example generation and what they should be doing. I believe if you are a parent or a role model or anybody that's older and has people, under you in age, it is your responsibility and your stewardship to show them that they can achieve great things, to believe in them. I believe that this younger generation has more capacity to do good than any other generation that's ever existed on the face of the earth. Now, in order to be able to do that, they need to believe that. And that starts with us. We need to believe in them, because that's honestly where my journey started, was somebody else believing in me and seeing good in me, which then became a catalyst for me to help believe what I couldn't see. And so for this example, this older generation, to be able to believe and see things that they can't see, I think is vital for what we want these young people to create and the vision that they want to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brayden, tell me, when you work with these young people, how much of yourself do you see modeled in these young people, and how much does that inspire you to really maximize the potential you can get out of the people that you're speaking to, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I am them, I think, in a lot of ways. And so it's very relatable. I love working with young people because I see a lot of myself in them. I think at heart, I'm really a teenager, and I love their spirit and their energy. I remember the spot of being not believing in me. I remember the places of not having a lot of confidence and low self-esteem and using other external things to cover up what inside was a mess. I remember the nights of just crying myself to sleep because I was so scared to go to school the next day, because I had so much fear and anxiety about things that I couldn't control and things that might happen. I see it all the time, and it's inspiring to me, and I feel just grateful to God to be blessed in a position to be able to let him use me to inspire and help these people dream again and gain that vision and belief about themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brad, I'm also curious to ask you about, another motto or philosophy that I live by. I always tell people that life is about etching your fingerprints of difference into the sand. And, one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you this morning was I wanted your perspective on greatness and really etching your fingerprints of difference into the sand. How you work to help these young people sort of transform their lives and identity, because life is about seeing you where you want to be. So I'm curious about, when I say etch your fingerprints of difference into the sand, what comes to mind for you, my friend?
Be you and go out there and leave a mark. Make sure every place knows that you were there. A lot of times what I say to people, and a quote that often comes to my mind, is leave people better than you found them. Leave every interaction differently with people feeling better about themselves. Leave people warmed by the fire of your spirit. So when I think about etching your fingerprint into the sand, it's going into every place, into every beach, to every shore, and leaving your mark and what you have to offer wherever you go. Because your uniqueness and the gifts that you have were created and given to you so that you could leave that mark, so you could etch something in somebody else's life.
Yeah, and I know for you, you tell an audience, you communicate to an audience practical tools on how to really transform the vision of their lives. So when you talk to audiences, you tell them that you'll give them practical tools that any audience can immediately take away and apply, my friend. And I know people walk away feeling grounded, empowered, and lifted and inspired, my friend. So, talk to me about why you think practical tools are important, and what sort of practical tools do you think any audience can take away when it comes to lifting up their spirits and their self-esteem as well? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
So, a big part of that is how you talk to yourself. I remember I was on a coaching call one time with a group, and the topic of abuse came up. And in there, I had the thought come to my mind, and it said, if you were to take 10 people, 100 people, and if you were to ask them, would you ever abuse anybody? I can guarantee you for the most, like pretty solidly, that nobody would say I would abuse somebody. But then the thought was, how many times do we verbally abuse ourselves by the talk that we say to us? I thought that was interesting. You know, we would never say it to anybody else, but we say it to us. And so I want to kind of harp on this train a little bit for the way that you speak to yourself. If you are talking negatively to yourself, or with any thought or with any belief, there is always another one that you can choose to believe. That's why gratitude is so important. The reason why people who are grateful are happier is because they are choosing to live in a state of abundance where they can see what they have instead of what they don't have. So, some practical things to take away. I'm a huge writer. Write to invite. And to invite this concrete, this solid evidence of living a better life that's geared towards the one you want to live. And so have a gratitude journal. Be grateful and write down those things that you have, because when you live and when you recognize what abundance you've been given, you don't think about what you don't have. It's not possible to live in those two states of mind at the same time. The other thing, a practical tool to take away, is to not expect the worst. If you don't know the future, then you can't positively tell me that X, Y, or Z is going to happen. But oftentimes in a situation, I'll take this one, for example, because it's super popular. I'm just not going to expect to get into this job or this university or this internship or position, because when I don't get in, I'm going to be less disappointed. There's a couple different reasons why that thinking is flawed, but we naturally expect the worst. But let me tell you this, if you don't know the future, then expect the best, because it changes how you show up. You feel differently. You go into that interview more confidently. You show up as your true self. And like I said, there are many other tools that people can walk away with, but those are some. And another one that just came to my mind that I think is something that I've done that transformed the way that I thought about myself is write down a list of every positive gift, quality, and attribute that you have about you, and read it often. That way you can have this concrete vision and evidence in your mind of this is who I am, not what somebody else tells me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brandon, I'm also curious to get your thoughts on the evolving definition of inclusion, and how do you think the word inclusion has sort of evolved over time, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Inclusion can go a lot of different directions. If you're talking about specifically with people, I think we all have a desire to be included, be accepted. And I think a large part, we know this from studies and from research, how many people feel lonely. We're in a loneliness epidemic. And if you were to try and include one person every day, somebody new, talk to somebody, invite them to sit down with you at lunch, whatever it may be, if you were to include one more person in your life, what that would do for them and what it would do for you. Inclusion, I think, is something that we need a whole lot more of in this world because everybody needs to feel valued and loved and cared for.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brayden, I'm also curious to get your thoughts on this 2024 study from American University that found that 75% of younger Americans are optimistic about their future, but only 47% of those same people are optimistic about societal future and the future prosperity of society, my friend. So I'm wondering what that tells you about the optimism of today's young people and what you make of those findings, my friend.
I am an optimist, and I love that people have this positive outlook, and I think we need some more of it. It's interesting to me that those findings, that the percentage would, they can do great things. And I'm an optimist, and I believe in them. And if I believe in them, then they can believe in them. And if you are an optimist and somebody who thinks positively about life, I believe it's part of your calling to go and help other people be optimistic about theirs because maybe they're not. If you are one that feels hope for your future, then go out and help somebody else's future that maybe feels a little less hopeful. You be a part of the change that this world needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brandon, I'm also curious to ask you on the other end of the spectrum. I'm curious to ask you more about what frustrates you the most about the peer pressure that young people are under today. And if you had a message for advertisers or older people about the peer pressure that they put young people under today. I'm curious if you could snap your fingers and change something about our societal discourse and how we view and talk to young people. I'm curious what that would be and why, my friend.
I wish that we could love them a little bit more. There's a religious leader that in my church said that the only bad thing about teenagers is that we don't have enough of them. And I really believe that. And if we could believe in them and love them just as much as I believe in God or as much as I believe in other people, if everybody could believe in each other and see themselves for who they actually are, that would be one of the greatest changes that I think I would love to see.
Yeah, and to that point, my friend, I'm curious to follow up by asking you about this CDC study that was released last year that found that 1 in 3 high school students in America reported experiencing persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness in the past year, according to the CDC, as I mentioned. So I'm curious, what do you make of these findings, and how can we better equip young people with the mental, health sort of equivalent tools so that they can deal with their emotional triggers and get the assistance they need when they experiences these feelings of sadness, my friend. What do you think of these findings, and how can we help young people improve their optimism and mental health, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Be somebody that they can go to. Mental health and a lot of these emotional struggles are very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable to be in that kind of state. And so I would say be somebody that people are comfortable talking to. So that when people are struggling or they do reach out for help, you can direct and guide them to those places where they need some help. And to those that do struggle with those those kinds of things, please go seek help. Please don't stay in the state or the position where you're at. It's not worth it. There is help, and you can find it and you can get it. And if that's something that you need, I hope that there's people, and I think we as people need to be individuals where others feel comfortable coming and telling us these things. And if we can do that, I think we'll see a lot of changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brayden, I'm also curious to ask you if there's one student or one story that has stuck with you on the, speaking circuit that you want to share with me that has still impacted your life to this day, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
There's a story of a man named Peter Daniels. He was a first grader. He had dyslexia, and it was undiagnosed. Nobody knew about it. And as a first grader, he went to school. He just switched new schools. He didn't want to go, and he comes in and he has a teacher named Miss Phillips. And the teacher just did not like Peter. And he was failing his classes. He failed the tests like over and over and over again, just was not a great student. And there was one day the teacher, after a test, was handing back the test with the grades on it. And on the whole paper, there was just this big fat red F. And she got done passing around the paper. She went up to the front of the classroom and she told him, "Peter, come up here." And he was like, And she was like, "Come up here." So he comes up to the front and she like grabs him by the arm and says to the whole class, "This is Peter, and he's a failure. And he's going to fail at everything that he does in his life, and he's never going to be successful, and he's never going to make anything." And Peter has this experience, and for anybody, you're like terrible. And so Peter goes on this journey, and he lives his life this way for years and years and years and years. And then he goes on this journey of self-discovery, of rethinking who he actually is and what he can actually do. And he goes on to start this massive real estate company, multimillionaire, and he wrote a book. And the book is called Miss Phillips, You're Wrong. And to me, that story is so impactful because you can prove in the face of anybody that I can do this. And I am not what other people think or say about me. And that's a story that's always stuck with me.
Yeah, I always like to say that we are the authors and writers of the own narrative of our story, my friend. And what do you think it means for today's modern teen to control the narrative of their own story, my friend? What comes to mind when I ask you that question, my friend?
To be the author and the narrator of your own story is to have control of your thoughts upstairs. You can control how you think. You may not be able to control every circumstance or thing that happens to you, but what you can control is how you think about it and how you react and then act towards a certain situation. To become the power that's the person that's in charge of the narrative is to have control over what you can control, because you won't be able to control everything. But you can author your story the way that you want to if you can control how you think about a certain circumstance or situation.
Absolutely. And Brett, I also wanted your perspective on burnout and coping with burnout, because according to our friends at the American Psychological Association and Common Sense Media Analysis also revealed that a significant number of young people today in America are dealing with burnout, and they use things like music and gaming and social connection with other people to cope with burnout and stress, my friend. So why do you think so many young people are experiencing burnout today, and how can we aid them and getting the sort of tools that they need to effectively overcome burnout, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
To use an analogy, there's a story of like people in the circus. There's the one that like try and spin the plates, so they have like 5 plates spinning on these wheels or whatever. And the actor or the theater guy, the one that's doing the performance, he can only spin one at a time. And when one starts to dip or looks like it's going to fall, he has to go back and spin that one. And then there's the next one that's about to fall, and he has to go spin that one. And it's this constant cycle of moving to which one's going to fall, which one do I need to respin again. I think a lot of people are experiencing burnout because they're trying so hard to spin every plate at once. And we need to rethink and reshape our priorities and what's the most important to you. You need to look and see if there are things that are not contributing to who you are or where you want to go. Do you really need them in your life? And when you can focus on just a couple at a time instead of all of them trying to run at the same speed, I think people will experience less burnout.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brayden, what do you think it means to have a modern definition of empowerment today for young people? So when you think about the word empowerment in the context of inspiring young people, what comes to mind for you, my friend?
I think empowerment is the ability to dream and not care what anybody else thinks and to go out and do things the way that you want to and to create the reality that you want. To feel empowered is to believe in yourself and to believe that you can create the kind of life that you want to create.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I want to talk to you about social connections in young people because the CDC and the American Psychological Association also say that it's an important part of positive development for young people today to build those social connections. They say about 58.5% of U.S. teens report that they always or usually receive social and emotional support that they need, my friend. So tell me, what comes to mind when you hear about 60% of young people get the social and emotional support that they need? How important is it in your mind to give the younger generation the social and emotional sort of tools that they need to learn, grow, and prosper, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
They are extremely vital. I think we all need support and we all need some love. And to have those skills and tools, I think, is vital to what this generation needs. If they don't have it, I'm a little worried about where things are going to go. And so that's why I love that it's our job to be able to support and to love and to care for and nourish and believe in this younger generation. Because if they don't have that, then it's going to be really hard for them to make the difference that they're supposed to make.
Absolutely. And Brenda, I want to end on a positive note this morning, my friend, and ask you about, your definition of what it means to have aspirational hope for young people and the future of the next generation in America, and how you would define sort of the meaning of having aspirational hope. And then secondarily, my friend, I'm wondering, through the work that you do, how do you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined?
My best acronym for hope is has one person ever. Aspirational hope for me is has one person ever had a dream but got laughed in the face but still did it and still achieved what they wanted to achieve? The answer is yes. Has one person ever had an immense struggle and beat it? Has one person ever, you can fill in the blank. It's possible. That's how I define aspirational hope. If one person has done it, I guarantee you can. If nobody has done it, then you be the first one to do it. And how I want to be remembered is just that I was somebody who wanted to do good, who loved God and who loved people and wanted to help give them a life that they wanted so desperately to create. I maybe struggled to do so. And that's how I want to be remembered.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on what you just said, my friend, I'm curious if someone listens or watches this and they're inspired after listening to our conversation this morning, and they come to the conversation, come to the conversation feeling broken, but inspired to take the next step in their life, my friend. How do you think, for a lack of a better term, we can help put them back together or give them the strength to persevere through adversity? What are your thoughts there?
My thoughts would be that you're not alone. You're not the exception. This is normal, but don't stay there. Reach out to me or to anybody, people that you love and that you trust, a coach or a therapist or a friend. Reach out. Somebody said that when we share the burden with somebody else, it becomes half the burden. But when we keep it to ourselves, it's only more painful and it makes it harder. So share it, please, and get the help that you need so that we can get you on the path you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Well, I have to tell you that I am certainly inspired after having this conversation with you this morning, my friend. And I'm curious if people want to get connected with you, my friend. What's the best way they can do that?
Instagram _Brayden.Black. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And those are the two best ways. Just DM me, message, reach out. And that's how people can get in touch with me.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, I want to thank you for the intensity of your work to inspire young people to really maximize what they view as their own sense of greatness and prosperity. I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this morning and for being here, my friend. It's most appreciated.
Thank you, Kevin. You're a stud, bro. Keep up the great work that you're doing, all right? Don't ever stop.